welcome back to another Batman News Weekly. This is episode 120, the final episode of 2021. This is going to be our annual top 10 Batman comics of the year episode. And we got our top 10 list here. I am not going to lie. We just recorded episode 119. So if you hear us references, we just talked about this. It's because we literally just recorded the previous episode for this. So just in case you're wondering why, if that happens. But we're about to dive into our top 10 issues of the year. Clay, was this harder than any previous year before?
I feel like it was. Holy shit. Because I'm going to go ahead and say this. There is only one main Batman title issue on my list.
Damn. That's crazy.
Yeah. There's only one.
I say we just dive into this. Do you want me to go first with number 10, or do you want to kick it off?
Let's go ahead and go with you. What was your number 10?
Okay, so I do want to say, because I feel like every year I do like a jokey kind of like, oh, this should be on there. But I'm going to have two honorable mentions here before I actually give you my actual 10. One, I thought Man-Bat should have been on my list. But as an arc, like the whole 5 issues or whatever Man-Bat did, I thought was great. But it didn't make my top 10. So I just want to throw an honorable mention out to Man-Bat. I thought it was a good series. And I do want to say an honorable mention to Batman 117 for ending Tynan's run. I think that should have been on the list. So, but I didn't put on the list just to not, whatever. So honorable mention to that one too. But my number 10 is something we just talked about in the previous podcast, and that is Batman One Dark Knight. So if you guys listened to the last podcast, the reason why I loved this issue was because I thought I was going to hate it as I started reading it. As it turned around and I saw that Batman was the premise of the book ended with this new EMP character turning out every single light and piece of technology in Gotham. And now Batman is going to have to go through Gotham City that is in like riots and violence happening right now, carrying this villain to the new Arkham or the new Blackgate facility in pitch black darkness. And that's a story that I'm hella interested in. So that makes my top 10 list, a book that just came out.
Very, very nice. Now, my number 10 is something from the very beginning of this year, which is Future State Catwoman number 2. Now, this issue was after the reveal that Bruce Wayne was on the train. Catwoman had not seen him yet, but this is where like the fighting with Onomatopoeia happened. We got that huge 1-page splash page of like what it was like for Selina at his quote unquote funeral, and like the giant Batman coming out and being like, what did you do to me? What's wrong with you? You know, really having Selina question herself throughout the entire issue and whatnot. It was a really fun issue and conclusion to a story that we both said, oh, if this was a series, I think we could follow this because of the characters that they introduced, which eventually ended up being characters in Catwoman's, like Ram V's run in Alleytown. So really, really cool setup for a future story that, of course, never happened.
Yeah, no, that was a really cool story. I feel like I need to put this out there for my list. Whereas everything on this list, besides my number 1 book, everything else can be in different orders, to be honest. Like, I don't have a hard set order on this. And I feel like a lot of my stories I picked were either because I did enjoy the whole issue, or there was just moments in those issues that I just thought were phenomenal, and that's why they made my list. Because I do not think this was the strongest year for Batman books.
No, not at all.
But number 9 is, of course, I had to do it, Batcat number 2. And the reason why this is on my list is because this was the actual issue where Selina Kyle kills the Joker. So I was just like, okay, it was hinted at in issue 1, but it was issue 1 also made my top 10 list last year because that was the only good Batman I felt like we had got. And I was just like, yeah, hell yeah. But I had to throw this on there because obviously I'm a Tom King simp. But at the same time, just seeing, Selena kill Joker, I was just like, awesome. Like, because it was different. They're older. Batman's dead. She's not going to have to pay the consequences. We are learning about those consequences now and how crazily she hates the Joker now. And to just seeing, like, from where that started at the beginning of the year and where we are that we just literally covered in the last podcast, I'm loving that story progression.
Yeah.
So I have to go with for sure Batcat number 2, just for that moment of the death of the Joker, which I thought was kind of cool.
Very, very
So
nice. My number 9 is, and I still can't believe that this has made it onto my list. Batman Fortnite 0 point number 5.
so
For
I
a
don't remember
long
any of
time.
this.
So,
Yeah,
well, I don't think you actually read any of
I
these.
didn't, but we talked about them on the podcast though.
Yeah.
Some of them.
So I will say this, an honorable mention for me, because it did make. So what I did is I went by every single month and I
Mm,
wrote down every single Batman book that was in every single month. And then I chose 2 from every single month. And then I dwindled it down to 10. So I will say issue 3 and issue 5 ended up being on my list first. My honorable mention is going to be issue 3. That is the one with the cameo or supporting character of Snake Eyes
mm,
from G.I. Joe, because it
yep.
was a Fortnite thing and they were both in the game for that time or whatever. This issue in particular, though, is nearing the conclusion of the series. They are in a part of the game where they can actually talk, so they interact a lot more. This is the team up with Deathstroke, where he inevitably ends up double crossing them and jumping through the portal before Selena and Batman can get through.
Yeah.
This, of course, gets them to start uh, finding out ways that maybe, hey, we maybe may not ever get able to go back to where we came from. And remember, they still do not have their proper memories of the DC universe.
Yep.
So it's a very interesting take on the characters, but they are still solely Batman and solely Catwoman. Really, really fun. Although I haven't played Fortnite in what feels like probably 3 years,
Mhm.
um, it was still a very interesting and honestly a better written story than a lot of Batman books this year.
Yeah, I remember us that being a big issue of just like we did not have good Batman for so long this year. And that's why I was always like waiting for the next Batcat, waiting for the next Batcat. Because yeah, there was a lot of shit, like a lot of bad comics this year, in my opinion, which I don't think we had that the previous years. Which was unfortunate, but anyways, moving on to my number 8. I haven't been a huge fan of this series, but I have to say, Robin number 5 was probably the only issue I really
Wow.
liked, because it was the cheesy issue of all the Robins going after Damien and chasing him across rooftops and him kind of beating all of them, and it ended with Dick Grayson having a heart to heart with them. He's like, "Hey, we all went through this, and you got to go do your own thing. But you like we've all been Robins, but the connection between you and I is you were my Robin." And like
Yeah.
that connection, that storytelling, one gave me a little bit of hope for Joshua Williamson, because I wasn't a big fan of him at that point, or I didn't like have a lot of I wasn't
Good
high on him.
experiences with him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. There you go. So seeing that he could write the Bat Family this well, I was just like, okay, I have a little hope for the Batman in the future. So I have to go with Robin 5, because that was just anytime you give me a good Bat Family moment, I'm sold. So
Nice.
that was definitely my number 8.
Very, very
So
nice. Now, my number 8, going all the way back to Nightwing 79. This issue
ooh,
was the date issue with him and Barbara. Um, finally back in Bloodhaven, kind of getting the feel of the town. This is where
uh-huh.
you really start to see, like, okay, there are things that I have been missing, because at one point he was unfortunately Rick Grayson.
Oh, we'll
He's
try not to
starting to
remember
get
those.
a better. He's starting to renew his living situation in Bloodhaven.
Was
Um,
he Nightwing all of 2021?
Yes. He was
Damn.
Nightwing of all of 2021. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Um, but this is where he met the homeless family. This is where we kind of get the tease at the fact that there is somebody out there hurting homeless individuals. This is right before they get Tim Drake to come in and help them
Mhm.
out. But this is the really fun date night with Barbara. This is where you also find out that they all have like a group chat where they text each other.
Yeah.
Really, really fun stuff.
Yeah. That was cool. I only have one Nightwing issue on mine. It's my number 6 pick, but we'll get to that one in a little bit.
Nice.
Um, my number 7 pick goes to the Long Halloween special. And the reason why this made my run was because it was, Jeff Loeb, which you might not like him as a person, but I think as a writer, he's great. But the reason why I thought this was awesome was because we waited a week for Clay to actually read all of the Long Halloween, and after Clay read everything, he was like, "Damn, yeah, like it went very well with all the stuff that happened in the Long Halloween." And I really enjoyed that. Like when a writer can tap into an old story and continue it, I think it's amazing. Granted, it's easy for Loeb because it was his story, but I
Mhm.
feel like there are other writers out there, a la Scott Snyder, that don't know how to write a better story that they already wrote before. So seeing that Loeb was able to add something to the Long Halloween mythos, granted, it wasn't like it didn't surpass it or anything like that, but I thought it was just a really good, just side quest to the Long Halloween that I was really interested in it, and I enjoyed reading it. The art felt like the old book, and the writing and the story was pretty solid, and it had just some good. I don't know. It's just something about that style with Tim Sale that and the storytelling that goes along with it. It's like the how Azzarello fits with Lieber Mayhew, right? Or Scott Snyder did fit with Greg Capullo. Like those teams that work together, it's just something that they do together that makes it feels awesome. And that's what I got out of this special. So
Yeah.
that's definitely my
So
number 7.
surprisingly, with how new I am to the Long Halloween, that is my second honorable mention is the
Hmm.
Halloween special. I I was the hipster on that in the sense of like, oh, I'm not gonna touch it. It's so
Yeah.
loved. I'm not even gonna read it. I'm not even gonna bother. I knew the premise of the story, but you're like, you have to read it in order to understand what's going on in the
Yeah.
special. So reading it actually did help out. I absolutely loved it. And you're right. This felt like it, like if I, like I did, I read it as a 13th issue.
Yeah.
And it honestly just felt like, oh, this came out the very next year or on Halloween that year that this came out.
Yeah.
So felt really, really good that it got that feeling out of it and really, really fun. Now, my number 7 is Detective Comics 1040. This is
Ooh, okay.
Bruce Wayne in jail. This is the drunk tank story with the guy that is like, oh, I know you. You're Bruce Wayne. But more importantly, you're Batman. And I can
Yeah.
tell you how I know. And just like getting the blue suit, we say it all the time, the blue suit is the number one way to go with Batman. And
Yeah.
especially with Dan Mora, he knows exactly how to portray it. It looked amazing. And just like you you don't expect Bruce to fuck up,
Yeah.
but he did. And you wouldn't even call it a fuck up,
Yeah.
you know? So when that happened, I know we were both like, what the fuck? This is
Yeah.
so cool. And then the very next morning, the dude wakes up from his drunken comatose and he's just like, "Oh yeah, hey, anything that I said while I was drunk, it just leave it alone. I'm stupid when I'm drunk and I'm so sorry." The dude
Yeah.
didn't even remember that he called out Bruce Wayne, which is
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. Somebody has a completely different drunk personality that knows the identity of Batman.
Yeah, no, that story is phenomenal to the point where it was actually my number 5. So
Oh
that was
shit.
my number 5 story. So, cuz yeah, the art, the story, like it's those, and we talked about it on that podcast, but those types of stories where you can tell a story without like having to really make a new character or do anything crazy. This was just a random Gotham civilian we'll probably never see again.
Yeah.
And they just like, I have a memory of Batman. Like telling stories through the eyes of Gotham citizens, I'm surprised it's not done more
Yeah.
because like that happened a lot in the Batman animated series. Plenty of episodes of people like, this is how I see the Batman, or this is
Why
how Bruce
isn't
Wayne saved
Urban
mine.
Legends that story? Why isn't Urban Legends the tales of Gotham citizens?
No idea.
That
No
would
idea.
make more fucking sense.
Yeah. But, we have plenty of ideas on this show that never get used, Clay. I just gave the best synopsis for the Shadow of the Bat or some crazy like that on the
Oh
last one,
shit.
and it'll never see the light of day. But yeah, this was probably one of my favorite Dan Mora Batman books from this current run that is with Tamaki. Are they both going to be on Shadow of the Bat, or is he off?
Uh Dan Mora is doing the Batman Superman book with Mark Waid. So
Mm,
I think he is going to be off of Detective for a little bit. I'm not entirely sure. I need to go back and double check.
yeah.
But he may be actually no, excuse me, he might be doing both.
Okay. Yeah, either way, the blue suit Batman was just so fucking great. And that was a flashback, so unfortunately we don't have that suit going forward. I would love if we had that suit going forward, but I don't know. I know Tom King went back to the old underwear suit because we didn't have that in New 52,
Yeah.
but I really wish he would have went to the blue instead of the black and gray. But one day, because the way Jim Lee used to draw that blue suit, it was
Oh,
just
so
fucking
good.
phenomenal, dude. So I love that one. But moving on to number 6, I have Nightwing 84. So this one was, I believe, right before they got into Magistrate and it got taken over and, had to do all the Fear State shit. But the reason why I love this one is because it was the reunion of Batman and Robin, but it was Batman and Nightwing.
Yeah.
So Nightwing is getting trapped by all these Magistrate robots or whatever. And Batman comes in and has his back. They beat the shit out of all these robots and they jump into the sewer or something like that. And he's all like, Bruce, thank you for having my back. And there's this moment where, Bruce is there and he's all like, I've seen them do this to my parents or whatever. I wasn't going to let it happen to my son. And I was just
Yeah.
like, oh! And it was just like that moment right there. I was just like, fuck yeah. And again, my list is going off of moments. And that was another one of those great moments
Oh,
between two characters that I love.
there was so many picks that I had throughout the entire year that wasn't necessarily the entire issue. It was just
Yeah.
like, oh, there was this one like I had Batman Black and White on some of the
Mm,
on my other issues of like possibly on the list, but it wasn't because the entire issue was good, but maybe one story was good out of that entire issue.
yeah.
So, I can totally understand why moments are better than entire issues when it comes to top tens of 2021.
Yeah, for
So,
sure. Because it's hard to remember a whole issue for a whole year, you know what I mean?
yeah.
It's not, you don't get fucking John Carpenter Jokers every year, you know what I mean? You just don't get it. So it was,
Oh
yeah, really
man.
hard to try to like remember a lot of these stories, but that moment I remembered and I had to go through all of the Nightwings because I was like, which one was that? Because that was cool. And I finally found it. So
Yeah.
that was my number 6 on my list.
Awesome. My number 6 is Batman Urban Legends number 7. This
Mm.
is the Batman Beyond issue. This is the
Oh, I
one.
forgot about that completely.
Yes. Yes.
That would have been on
This
my list, actually.
This is
I
on the
forgot
list for
about
me.
that.
I apologize for my dog. He's kind of going crazy in the background. So this was a story that Juice actually kind of like hyped up for me because I wasn't necessarily, on board with the ending, but
Yeah,
after the conversation that we had, it was a great start to an eventual series that we're actually going to be getting next year.
yeah,
So I'm really excited about this. I love the tone and the voice of Terry McGinnis here. The entire conversation that Bruce was having about like, you know, not being there for the city and all of that was just really, really good. I love the art there as well. my only hiccup about the entire like short story was the fact that Terry just gave away Ace because he no longer has a cave.
Yeah.
He's gonna have to rebuild everything, and he's gonna be on his own. And I think a Batman Beyond Terry McGinnis that doesn't have the guy in the chair, that doesn't have Bruce Wayne, that doesn't have anybody because he told everybody he loved and cared about, get out of the city,
Yeah.
leave. Until we see what's actually happening in this new Gotham. Like, is Gordon gonna be back as commissioner? Like, is he gonna see his parents again or his mom? Like,
Yeah.
it's gonna be interesting. So I loved that as a start of a series. And having it in an Urban Legends really boosted up the sales for that one issue. I thought it was really, really smart and really, really fun.
Yeah, no, that would have definitely been on my list. Like, that probably would have bumped probably Batman One Dark Knight, to be honest. It would have definitely been on my list. I completely forgot about that issue. Because, like, I was going through the list and I was just all like, I don't remember anything from Black and Whites. I don't remember anything from Urban Legends. Like, I was just going through them, but I completely forgot about that Batman Beyond story. And yeah, that story was phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's crazy. So I don't have number 5 because I was also a detective, and we already talked about that. So,
Yeah. So my number 5 would actually be, let me actually look here. My number 5 is Batman The Adventures Continues Season 2, number 3. This
mhm.
is the story with Huntress. This is the one that you never read, that I talked about on the podcast. So the reason why I love this one so much, it was not a Batman centered story, it was a Batgirl centered story. And the fact that they did not pull any punches on this issue whatsoever, we found out that the main villain was there during the murder of Huntress's family and was playing his piano there and kind of making it a whole joke. And like, she was at the very end of the entire issue, she was freaking disguised as a police officer, walking him into his jail cell, and she was humming the song that he was playing while he murdered, or while the crime family murdered her family. And he's like, "Oh, I know that one. Where'd you hear it from?" "Oh, from you." And like, basically killed him at the end of the issue with the entire panel being blacked out. And I'm just like, holy fuck, that
Yeah.
is freaking amazing. Like, you would never freaking see that. Like, I I say never see that, but you said like the really cool thing about Batman the Animated Series that you don't necessarily see too much in shows or cartoons or even comics these days is the use of your own imagination,
Mhm.
you know? And just like, oh fuck, like what could have happened? No, they implied, yeah, she fucking murdered him
Yeah.
in GCPD.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't put any of the Adventures Continues on my list because they've all been good and they all kind of go together. You know what I mean? Like the last 3 issues have all been an arc.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to like cheat, although I cheated last year when I was like the 3 Jokers and I put all the books in one, but like I was trying to avoid doing that this year. So I didn't put any of the Adventures Continues, but they could have easily been on this list as a whole because they're fucking like episodes. They're fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember you telling me about that one. That one sounded really cool. So that was Clay's number 5. Going on to my number 4, which this one was interesting, and the reason why I put this on my list is because we had a good long conversation. I remember on the podcast about this, but it was Batcat number 6. And this one is up so high is because it had the speech between Batman and Phantasm about his no kill rule,
Yeah.
and she was talking about like, well, why is it okay for military people to do it and blah 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 blah. And he talked about like how they don't have, or they have limits and all that jazz, and he doesn't have limits, so he can make his own calls on whatever, whatever. And I thought that was really big because like that's a conversation I fucking have to deal with all the time on TikTok, and everybody thinks Batman should kill, and it's stupid that he doesn't kill, and it's always just a stupid argument because I'm like, us as humans, we don't go around just killing everybody for whatever reason. Like, you know what I mean? And so it's so weird that I find people thinking that like, oh, Batman should kill. He just has to kill. I'm like, he doesn't have to. Like, we don't. how do you not like? How do you automatically put that he has to kill all these things? You know what I mean? Um, so I just thought it was a really good conversation because I feel like a lot of people stay away from that kind of topic. We know Tom King has no problem diving into those kind of conversations. And yeah, I just thought it was a really, really good conversation because I think we went into I don't know if we went into like a philosophical topic on it, but like we did have a good lengthy conversation if I remember correctly
Yeah.
about the idea of it. And yeah, so that is my number 6 just because I love conversation starters. That's what that
Yeah,
book did.
that was one that I was debating to be put on the list also for the exact same reason. I
Mhm.
do like the obvious answer. It's not kind of hiding it. It's not saying, "Oh, maybe he's questioning whether he's still good with killing people and you could
Yeah.
probably twist it for this reason." No, he's flat out says, "Hey, these military officials have orders that they have to follow.
Yeah.
I make my own orders and my order is to not kill."
Yeah.
And it's out in the open. It's you don't question it whatsoever. It is he drew the line and there it is, you know?
Yeah.
So I really do appreciate that issue of Batcat. My number 4 is Nightwing 78, the
Mhm.
start of Tom Taylor's run on Nightwing. This was absolutely phenomenal because you got to see Nightwing in all of his glory in the very beginning. And then at the very end, we get that letter from Alfred, that
Oh, yeah, yeah.
heartfelt, just like, hey, I understand that you don't even know who I am right now. And this is him writing to Rick Grayson, not
Yeah.
to Dick. And he is saying how, like, the entire family loves him. Bruce is, you know, because this is in the moments of like, he knows he's going to die,
Yeah.
like he knows that Bane is going to kill him. And it was so heartbreaking. And that is just one of the things that Tom Taylor's does best. He knows how to pull at the heartstrings.
Yeah.
And that's when he's like, "Oh, by the way, all of my money is now yours."
Yeah.
And we now see how Dick Grayson is not just saying, "Hey, I'm going to live the high life as a billionaire." Oh, I'm going to use that money for something better. And he even named the whole situation, the Alfred Project or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
So I love how Taylor has started the series and how he's still going about it in such a way that honors that character.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was a really good issue, and I love, I think a lot of people forget that, Dick Grayson grew up alongside Alfred, so that's just as much of a father figure to Dick Grayson as Bruce is. So I thought
Yeah.
that was a really good thing. Also, that came after so many bad issues of Nightwing that it was just a
Yes.
breath of fresh air. So yeah, I agree. That was definitely a great honorable mention there, or a great part being on top of your list. But yeah, like I forgot about that. That issue was really good too. Um, moving on to I think we're on number three. Number three, right?
Yeah.
My number 3 is DC versus Vampires number 2. So I love this one for obvious reasons. It had the Bat family conversation, the way Bruce was going after all of them with his little like secrets and jazz. They all figuring him out. They're like, we know what you're doing and blah blah, holy water and bullshit. And just the way because this was we had to literally go and get inside information to make sure like this wasn't Tynan because we didn't understand how the fuck you could write this so well but not write Batman well, and we found out that it was not Tynan doing the dialogue here. So, yeah, DC versus Vampires has been surprisingly good after the 2 issues that we've got so far, and just seeing the Bat family and knowing that they're going to be essentially vampire hunters now. I'm excited to see what this is going to be because now they're dead, they're undead people or whatever, right? So their no kill rule doesn't really matter. And we saw Damien with the freaking little crossbow, and he's like, hell yeah. So like I just thought everything about that. There was like the like kind of sexual tension between fucking Nightwing and Batgirl going through there. We had some little inside jokes between, Red Hood and everybody, like, and even Alfred was there saying like, handing out tea and, having these little personality traits with each character. Like it
"Oh,
was just
Bruce,
so
just so
good.
you know, I also,
Yeah.
did this and did this." He's like, "Oh, don't worry. I had, your shower, doused in holy
Yeah.
water. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So, like, overall, it was just anytime you give me a good Bat Family moment, I love it, and that was just awesome because again, we hadn't had many this year. So, like, that just seeing that gave me a lot of hope for the storyline, and it when you especially when you start off a series like that, if one of the Bat Family is going to die, that moment right there is going to make it worse when they die cuz it's like,
Yeah.
damn, they had such a good moment, you know. So, that is my number 3 on my list.
Very, very nice. I will say it is in my top 3. I will not reveal what it is yet,
Ooh.
and I will give my thoughts on it when I reveal. So, my number 3 is Catwoman Lonely City number 1.
Okay.
So, this issue, it had been a while since we've read a Black Label book since I think looking at it was oh shoot. What was the last Black Label book? Was it's not Three Jokers, was it?
Three
I mean,
Jokers was a while back.
other than Batcat, because Batcat is just like something that we always
Yeah.
read, you know.
Mhm.
Um, other than Three Jokers was just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, this is a great start from somebody I don't even know. And he is doing everything in this book. He is writing, he is lettering, he is coloring, he is drawing, he's doing inks, he is doing the entire 9 yards. And he has created almost his own continuity, but also in playing around with other past continuities as well,
Yeah.
and making his own canon, and just having this book as a like love letter to all Catwoman fans is just great.
Yeah.
The teases to a very dramatic past of this book that we still have yet to learn is, keeping me on my seat for what's to come. There's still one last issue that is coming out in 2022. And for me, I thought this was almost the pinnacle at the moment of Batman related books that we were ever going to read this year.
Yeah. No, that is a really great book. I'm curious to see what your top 2 are now. But I'm gonna jump over to my number 2 book, which is Batman 118. And the reason why this is so high on my list is because it gave me hope that Batman can be good again. And after going through the last 2 years of shit books on the main Batman title, after fucking violently hating it at times and just being mad and raging, like what the fuck is happening in this book? Watching Batman be the fifth wheel in this damn series, to see him being the center of attention, to seeing there be a good story, and seeing that he's gonna be a fucking detective, and also shine that, hey, look, the Bat Family exists in this fucking book,
Yeah.
was just great. So seeing like 118 gave me hope. Now 119 could be dog shit for all I know. But as of right now, in this moment, I'm excited to read Joshua Williams's run. I'm excited about Batman, and I didn't get a lot of that in 2021. So that is why Batman 118 is so high on my list.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. So, my number 2, Batman 118.
oh,
So,
nice.
this has happened only once. I think it was last year that one of our, well, no, I think multiple of ours matched up last year.
Yeah,
But the fact that this is only happening once this year, we have similar tastes, but this one just knocks it out of the park. My
yeah,
subtitle for this number 2 spot is Batman is finally good again.
yeah,
Is the reason why I put it at number 2. Like, as soon as you see like the ominous like shadow of Batman in the background with those two thugs breaking in, and then you just see the splash page with all the fireworks going off, and the next thing you see is them yelling like, take us to jail, take us to jail,
yeah,
just get us out of here, there's Batman over there. And they're like, okay, don't know what you did, but we'll take you in, we're cool. And
yeah,
then like having the small moment, it's so small, but it's just a small moment of like, what do you usually do after a win? And you see the panel of him and Gordon, the panel of him and Damien, the panel of him and Clark, like, and him and Alfred at the very bottom playing
Yeah.
chess. Like, it pulled at the heartstrings.
Fat cat.
It showed that Joshua Williamson probably listened and read everything that people have been complaining about with Tynan's run. And he's like,
Yeah.
don't worry, I got you. I'm going to go ahead and show you what I have in store for you. And to be honest, looking at everything that's going on in the future issues, I have taken a peek at like very little, but like it looks like it's going to be a great few issues, to be
Yeah.
completely honest. So I am very much looking forward to Williamson's, like, just I will say, for the first arc, I am very much looking forward to it. He's teased us getting a detective Batman. He's going up against basically another billionaire with Lex Luthor here. Like, I'm interested to know what Lex's like plans are. Like, why is he going after Bruce of all people, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm so looking forward to it. Like this, like I said, and like Juice said, having a good main Batman title issue after an entire year was rough.
Yeah.
We it's almost like we took the like we took a moment of every episode just to say this issue of Batman sucked.
Yeah.
And it just did. And it hurt us as Batman fans to just not be on board with Batman.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
don't want to complain about Batman books.
yeah,
I would love to be here, like it's the greatest, but I'm not gonna lie to y'all.
yeah, we've said that we're gonna be honest. We're not going to sugarcoat anything. And I was so happy that we got a legitimate good Batman book.
Yeah, no, man. I have to say the way it planned out, like, or it panned out is what I should say. The way he left Gotham, just being like, seeing the blimps and being like, what the hell's going on with Gotham, Inc. or Batman Inc. And seeing that, he's assuming these people, from what it looks like with after his evidence, that they actually killed somebody, and Lex is involved. I'm very intrigued.
Yeah.
And that's what's got me just like, I just have hope, man. Because the main goal is if you could get me to be interested in the next issue, I'm on board, right? That's all that matters.
Yeah.
And I'm excited. I don't like that we have to wait a month, but if it's going to be as good every issue and I have to wait a month, I'll take it. But I really do want to read that story already, which we do have that issue. So since we're going to be off, well, they're listening to it this week, so it's not like we're off for us, for them technically, or our listeners, but we're going to be off when this comes out this week. So next week, when this actually drops, I think I'll be reading a lot of Batman issues just to get ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna be doing a lot of reading this week to catch up and to get ahead in some other
Yeah.
stuff, but for sure on Batman.
Yeah, so because we have a lot, I mean, there's a lot of Batman coming up, so I definitely want to read all of that. But yeah, I think that was number 2. But my number 1 is Catwoman Lonely City. So Clay already talked about this, but Catwoman Lonely City just blew my fucking mind. Like, I texted Clay, I'm like, Lonely City is great. Like, you need to read Lonely City. Like, it's fantastic. And the thing is it's stories like this that let you know that every character can be great if the right person is behind them telling a story, right? And a lot of people think that Catwoman is below Batman, Nightwing is below Batman, all the Bat family is below Batman, but they don't have to be. They can be on his level as long as you have somebody writing a good story. And Catwoman, I think, has had some of the better stories in DC, but a lot of people just don't know about them. Like, people that don't know about that Ed Brubaker run are fucking missing out on some of the best fucking Catwoman issues you could ever read. Like, the
Yeah.
story is so good. And Ram V felt like that. And that's why I loved Ram V's Catwoman so much. But Lonely City, like, took Catwoman to a new level. Like, This is an older Catwoman. It's not like how Tom King's doing it, where he's mixing in, the past and the present and the future. No, this is future Catwoman, and it's not futuristic Catwoman on a fucking train saving Batman in this weird timeline that we don't know about. No, this is 20 years in the future. It's a whole different type of Gotham. Batman doesn't exist because we don't know yet, but he seems to have died because of some big explosion, along with the Joker. Nightwing is dead. Like, it seems like maybe Harley and some other characters are dead, but we don't know that in this issue one. They just set up this big cataclysmic Gotham event that changed Gotham for the future. And it got Catwoman sent to jail for 20 years. It somehow got Two-Face elected to be mayor. It had Barbara Gordon hating masks. Like, it was just this interesting concept of a future Gotham that I've never seen, because everything's usually based around Batman losing control, or Batman's got to take control back from Bane, or the Magistrate. But no, this was just Batman died, and this is the natural progression of what Gotham wants after their symbol is gone. And I just thought it was so intriguing, and the way this writer wrote Catwoman to still be awesome, but like going through the pains of getting older, like, was so relatable. And just doing the little things and showing us characters that are still alive in Gotham, that are able to live their lives, but they're a little chunky now, or they're old, or they're not as intelligent as they used to be, or whatever, is fantastic. And I just fell in love with this book, and I was all like, put this writer on anything and I want to read it now if it's
Yeah.
going to be like this, because I love Catwoman, and to see Catwoman get a book, I was more excited about this series than any other Batman series this year. I mean, I've been getting Tom King for a long time, so I really love Tom King, and I want to know Tom King's ending to Batcat. So I always consider that as a whole, like I'll judge it as a whole. But this Lonely City, like I said in the last podcast, I'm so excited to get this in a hardcover because this story is phenomenal. The only way I'll be less excited is if they don't stick the landing, which I am praying this is the one time a writer sticks the landing and I'm just like 10 out of 10. This story was great, because this is my favorite story of the year, hands down. So this is the only one I wouldn't switch. Anything else on my list, I feel like I could be argued with and be like, all right, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But Lonely City was my favorite book of the year.
Nice.
So
my number one is DC versus vampires. The entire interaction with the Bat family is something that I haven't had with the Bat family as a whole in what feels like years.
yeah.
You know, the back and forth. Yeah, you had Robin 5 on yours, and you had the siblings all interacting, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this had the siblings and Bruce and Alfred. It had everybody, and they were all bouncing off of each other. Nightwing and Barbara, like you said, sexual tension. Then you had freaking Red Hood making the sexual jokes towards Nightwing. And then you had Damian here being a kid. You had Tim Drake, still making jokes as well. And although we don't like hardcore campiness to Batman, this was in the midst of a serious conversation. So it felt like a Bat family mission, setup. Like, hey, this is what's going on. We need to be serious about this, while also still being a family. And I absolutely loved it. Like from the start of it, like I said, with Barbara and Nightwing, to the very end, where Alfred was like, "Oh, just to be on the safe side, I drank the tea and I did this." And Bruce, without batting an eyelash, without even looking up from looking at his newspaper, was like, "Oh, it's okay. I've already tested you. You didn't even know it." Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
such a Batman thing to do. And it was so funny. Like, I'm so glad that I had the chance to message Rosenberg, and like just to applaud him on his writing for these individuals. Like, even he said like he has to pinch himself sometimes to like really, say, holy crap, I get to write all of them at
Yeah.
one time. And he did a phenomenal job with it. Now, I don't know how much we're going to get of all of them in the future issues of DC versus Vampires,
Mhm.
but what he has done so far, I would be okay with him doing a Batman miniseries
Yeah.
with what
Yeah.
I have seen with just that interaction with 4 pages.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'd be down with that too, as long as he's not stretching himself too thin. He's already working
Yes,
on
and
6 books and
he
stuff.
is a very busy individual, but like I said, if his schedule opens up for it, if
Yeah.
he is like able to put all of his effort into it, like he is doing with these books, then I am on board with it.
Yeah. I'm very curious if, like, because he said that Tynan did the outline, right? Or the story
Mhm.
outline or whatever. I wonder if he works better if somebody comes up with the idea. Because, like, did he come up with everything for Task Force Z? Because we weren't a fan of that.
Yeah, no.
So, like, I'm curious because I do think there are some people out there that strive when somebody lays something out. They're like, this is your job, do it. And they're like
Yeah.
fucking phenomenal at it. But when you give them the whole project, sometimes they're like, oh man, it's like a little overwhelming. I'm
Yeah.
very curious if there's like a lot of writers out there that are like that. Either way, DC versus Vampires was my number three. And yeah, it's a phenomenal book, man. Like I said, I am excited for that. I never thought I would be excited for something with Tynan attached to it, after reading all of Batman. But seeing that there is, a good team on that book, it's been phenomenal so far. So I'm excited to see where it's gonna go. Granted, it still has 10 more issues, so they can always fall off, but because 12 issues is really long.
Yeah.
So, especially when you start because they're gonna have that one issue where like multiple people die, and you're just gonna be like, like, did that really need to happen? But we'll have to wait and see. But overall, definitely not the strongest year for Batman books. I will say that. Like, our top number one book doesn't even center around Batman. I mean, DC
Yeah.
Vampires, you could argue it does, but it's not. Hal Jordan's in that book a lot too. So,
Yeah.
you
Which I
know,
feel like right now is kind of the main character.
yeah. Yeah, because he's doing some dastardly things with other characters. So,
Yeah.
very intrigued by that book. I mean, Lonely City being my number one, that's a Catwoman book that has very little Batman. And I think that's another thing I like about it is it didn't need Batman to carry the book.
Yeah.
And that's something you don't see a lot. And DC loves to force that down our throats. It's like, I don't know if this is going to sell. Put Batman in it. And everybody tries to force Batman and stuff. But no, this Catwoman was like, hey, I'm going to kill Batman. So you'll see him. He's part of the story, but he's not the main person. And I like the idea of Selina trying to break into the cave. A place she's been in a million times, but now she's got a fucking Ocean's 11 this shit, which I've
Yep.
always said this should be a movie, like an Ocean 11's Catwoman movie, and they're doing it in a book. So I think that's fucking awesome. And I'm waiting. I can't wait for March to see the finale of this series. So overall, I'm hoping 2022 is going to be a lot better for comics. What do you have any
Yeah.
predictions for 2022?
2022, I think that I'm going to make a bold claim. I'm going to make a bold claim, and I have no idea if this is going to be true. Um, the one thing that made this podcast happen, I think it's going to be reversed. I think we're getting
How
Alfred.
so? How so?
I don't know. I still think that it has to do something with Robin, and that whole thing with the Lazarus Island. I think it may have something to do with that. It may even be the conclusion to this Shadow War thing, like talking
Hmm.
to the Al Ghul's, and you know, you know, maybe there is a conflict that is ultimately resolved, and they take a something from the Tom King book
Hmm.
of Batman, and they're like, oh, we do have this Nan pit. Why
Yeah.
don't we, like, we've already sacrificed so much, let's make one more sacrifice.
Hmm.
And maybe it isn't the best way to go in the sense of no killing, in the regards of Batman and his family, but
Yeah.
maybe we get Alfred back. But I
Yeah.
do think 2022 is the year that we get Alfred back in canon because we have the Pennyworth book that we have basically jumped off of because it was so
Yeah.
fucking confusing. We are getting tidbits of Alfred in other stories like DC Vampires, but I do think we are going to get Alfred in canon back. And I will say this, I think there is at least one event, whether it be Shadow War, whether it be this rumored next crisis event, I think there is at least one event that me and Juice are actually going to like.
Oh, that's a bold prediction.
That's a
That's
bold prediction.
very bold.
Yeah.
I dude, you know what? I don't mind Alfred not being around. That's the crazy thing.
Yeah.
Is I he's like the Joker. I don't mind putting him away for 5 years and then bringing him back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's only been what 2 since he died, or we're 3 years into this podcast, going to our third year. So yeah, he's been dead for over 2 years now. I say
Mhm.
maybe go 5 and then bring him back. Like make it interesting. Don't just like Lazarus Pit. You see, you can't bring him back in something like Robin because it's not like a mainstream storyline in my opinion. You know what I mean?
You don't think so, but because of the storytelling of Williamson has put on Robin, it weighs so much more for him, you
I
know?
agree, but he's gotten into campiness right now, and I don't want to see Alfred come back after Damien fights some demon fucking island monster. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Which we've seen, the preview pages are out there already for the next issue. Which by the way, since we are doing this, it looks like our next issue, because there is Batman books this week as we're recording this podcast. We're probably gonna have to double up and just get the best issues for the first episode of 2022 because I'm pretty sure there's issues this week that we would normally cover. So probably need to look into that.
Oh, that's true. That is
So
true.
there might be a lot of things to cover or review because I don't know when Robin 9 or the next Robin comes out. I want to say it's within this week or the next week. So we'll see.
It
But
is this week.
yeah,
Robin 9 is
so
this week.
I knew I saw it in the books. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't put them past them to bring back Alfred, but I don't know if I want to see that. Like I would prefer it happens in a better way, in my opinion. Not just like, oh, Lazarus Pit, like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't mind him being gone because I feel like there's still so much more you could do. Like, I wouldn't have minded there being an arc where you find Batman stumbling upon something or somebody stumbling upon one of Batman's gadgets or something like that, and it's him trying to create an AI Alfred. You know what I mean? Because he misses him. Like I feel like people haven't really dove as far as they could dive into the Bruce losing Alfred thing. It's just kind of like, oh, he puts his emotions away, he doesn't deal with it, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, Tom Taylor kind of like showed Bruce talk about, there was that one little panel like you honored him, he'd be proud or whatever in
Yeah.
Nightwing, which was kind of cool. But I feel like you could still get a little bit more mileage out of that because Batman being somebody that puts his feelings away, that could happen a year or two later where he just breaks down and it's like, I miss Alfred. You know what I mean? And then if you wanted to go even deeper, Damien could be like, I'm so sorry that I ruined that. Like essentially took your father from you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like, I don't know. I feel like you could do a little bit more, but it wouldn't surprise me if Alfred does come back next year. So we'll have to wait and see, ladies and gentlemen. I just hope Williamson brings in Catwoman. If he doesn't bring in Catwoman in 2022, I'm just gonna be pissed. So no matter how good his story is, I'm like, are you fucking shitting me? Like, are you fucking shitting me? Like, you're just as bad as Tynan
It
at
could
this
be
point.
it could be top 10 every issue and he's
Yeah.
still going to be say, "You know what? This year was golden for Batman, but fuck you, Williamson."
Yeah. Fuck that. Like, you could give me the best Batman run of all time, but if you do not include Catwoman, it ain't the best of all time then. But anyways, Clay, I'm assuming you are still off this week, or when do you come
I
back to your normal schedule?
So I am coming back to my normal schedule the day after New Year's. So I believe I am looking at the calendar now just to double check. Actually, no, the third, January 3rd is when I'm back up and running on every single podcast. So just make sure that you are subscribed to the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network over on any podcatcher of choice. Just type in Geek Ultimate Alliance and you will get all of the shows that I am a part of course. I do still have my Spider-Man No Way Home review over at Marvel Alliance, which is a part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance network. So listen to that. That's the latest thing there. And then, of course, I'm always going to be here every week.
Noise, noise, noise. Yep. Just go subscribe to my YouTube channels, ladies and gentlemen. Juice Reacts, Juice from the Box. Got some big things planned for 2022 if my anxiety allows it, because it robbed me of 7 months of 2021. So I'm really hoping that 2022 is going to be the year that I actually get to do a lot of creative stuff. So definitely subscribe to that. And yeah, we're hoping to bring you a lot of great entertainment in 2022 on this podcast. Hope you guys have a great new year. Hope you guys had a great Christmas, all that jazz. Hope you got some good Batman stuff. But that's going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. As always, he is Fanboy Clay. I am Juice Wayne. And remember, Batman is awesome.
News Weekly.